And a very happy Wednesday. I'm Rich Jones. Many of you know me as Paramount Global's General Tax Counsel, but what you may not know, in another life I served for 6 years as an Army Ranger, was seriously injured, medically retired, and as a wounded warrior and disabled veteran, I am so honored to serve as the company's Chief Veteran Officer and lead the Paramount Veterans Network. I want to express my deepest thanks and appreciation to all of our entertainment industry partners and this amazing team for making the 5th annual Veterans and Media Entertainment Summit such a successful and impactful event. During the summit, we have heard a lot about dealing with adversity, knowing the difference between situational and repeatable success, and navigating the treacherous waters of transition, change, among other things. I can think of no better model of excellence, someone who has lived this more than Montel Williams. From the moment he left the United States Naval Academy with a degree in engineering, Montel has been in some phase of dealing with the difficulties of change, transition, transformation, adversity, perseverance, and fighting for inclusion. From his days as a corporal in the United States Marine Corps to his days as a Naval Special Intelligence Officer, a lieutenant commander with experience and expertise as a Russian and Mandarin Chinese linguist and cryptologist, to his 17 years as one of the most critically acclaimed talk show hosts, executive producer, creative powerhouse, he has remained laser focused on always giving back and inspiring us as he faced difficulties, challenges, and change at every turn. There are very few people who can say that they shaped an industry, reinvented a genre, came up through the ranks, bootstrapped their way to the top, earned the respect and trust of everyone along the way, led with purpose, with heart, inspiring and force multiplying all along the way. We are so fortunate to have him with us to share his journey, wisdom, and insight. Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. I can think of no one whose life exemplifies excellence more, and it is my great honor and privilege to welcome a true national treasure, a legend, a hero, my dear, dear friend and brother. My dear VME family, please join me in welcoming the one, the only, Montel Williams.
Thank you so much, Rich, for such a warm and welcoming introduction. I've had the pleasure of getting to know Rich this past year, and through that friendship, I've had the honor of joining the Paramount Veterans Networks as an ambassador. And I hope all of you had such an incredible day today. This 5th annual Veterans Entertainment Summit is possible thanks to Rich Jones's unwavering support and to the dynamic and dedicated leadership of Betty Diaz, the head of programs and operations at Paramount Veterans Network, along with Sally Chan, the event's co-founder and an industry expert in community engagements, and of course, the Veterans and Media and Entertainment Organization. I am so thrilled to be here to talk to you today and share my journey of my career that spanned 22 years in both the Marine Corps and the Navy, and also my 35-year career in the entertainment field. You know, a lot of people have asked me, well, Montel, how did you transition from the United States Navy into television? And I gotta tell you, it's such a crazy little story. Let me share it with you. Back in 1988, I'd started a program speaking in high schools across the country, doing a program that I called Reach the American Dream. I spoke in about 1,500 high schools across the country to about 1.5 million young people, talking to them about, at the time, rather than reading, writing, arithmetic, but talking to them about what I consider the new 3 R's: restraint, responsibility, respect. Along the way, my speaking engagements gained sponsorship from people from AT&T, ITT technical schools, Procter & Gamble, Pepsi. At one point, Pepsi and Columbia TriStar in 1990 had joined forces to distribute the motion picture Glory to every high school across the country as part of the National High School Curriculum. They approached me and asked me if I wanted to do a leader to that movie as they sent it to schools, and I said, of course, yes. So I did that, and that movie was then sent by VCR back in the day when there was something called VCR. They sent that out to every high school library across the United States. The producer of that movie was one Freddie Fields, and Freddie Fields saw a copy of this that came in his office, and he was not told about this distribution for the National High School Curriculum. And he reached out to me and said, "Hey, man, what are you doing on my movie?" And I said, "Well, let me come out and tell you about it." So I flew out to LA 2 days before Christmas, 1990, and sat down in his office and showed him some of the work that I had been doing in schools and showed him the presentations that I was doing. And the presentations that I was doing were kind of set up in some ways like an hour-long speech, and then I would orchestrate a talk show kind of a setting in an auditorium with kids talking back about the issues that affected their lives. And Freddie Field said, I tell you, I think there's something behind this, man. You ought to get into TV. And I said, well, I'd love to. I need to have some help. And he said, well, let me help you. And by January of 1991, I was in conversations with, at the time, every syndicator that was out there, one of which was Viacom. And over the next 3 months, we negotiated a contract by the end of April, signed by myself and Sumner Redstone himself in his office back in 1991. So I signed a contract April, flew out to LA, did a couple test shows by April 3rd. By April 11th, by May 3rd, I did a couple of times. I flew out to LA May 3rd, did a couple of sample shows. Those shows aired. The next week, the shows went on the air. And so the Montel Williams show launched literally 3 months before the normal launch of brand new shows. I would take you down a little trip down the memory lane. My show was compared to, at the time, the shows that were already existed in talk, which was Phil Donahue, Oprah Winfrey, Sally, Jesse Raphael, and Geraldo Rivera. Regis and Kelly weren't even considered a daytime television show at the time. When my show stayed on the air for that entire summer, in September, they launched 4 brand new talk shows. One was Jane Pratt. The other was Chuck Woolery. The other one was Lisa Gibbons and John Tesh, if you remember that. And the other one was Ronald Reagan Jr. All of those shows, unfortunately, fell by the wayside, but I stuck around. And we moved the show from Los Angeles to New York, had a national launch in January of 1992, and the show never looked back. The Montel Williams show actually created a new format of syndication launches because they actually used a format called a slow rollout with our show that ended up starting me off with 8 stations, then 20 stations, then 30 stations, then 40, 50, and then bing. So the Montel Williams show survived while so many others came and went. And as a matter of fact, over 140 shows came and went during the 17-year run of the Montel Williams show. And I'm very blessed that the show was nominated multiple times for an Emmy for Best Show. I was nominated for Best Host, which I did win. And, marched on smartly, understanding that some of the tools that I learned in the military were the tools that actually helped to make me as successful as I've been. And that's the same thing that you need to recognize. It's dedication to mission. It's not giving up. It's always wanting to take that hill. It's always being interested in learning more. It's always making sure that you are the most knowledgeable person on that topic in the room. That will help differentiate you from so many others. Not only is the entertainment community starting to recognize the fact that our veterans have skills that are unique, that can be honed to actually help their individual mission, but there's corporations all over America right now who recognize that it's because of the contribution of our veterans that America has even survived to today. If you take a look back at the 60s and the 70s, when America was one of the leading nations in the education of its population, that was because our veterans returning from the Korean War and our veterans returning from the Vietnam War came back with something called the GI Bill in their hand. And either they used it for themselves or they used it for their children. So we became one of the most educated countries in the world just based on the contribution of our veterans. And it was the fact that our veterans understood long before the rest of America even focused in on things like equal opportunity. We are the only people on the planet in a job profession where you are graded on your support for equal opportunity. And so we are a nation that recognizes that, we are the sum of our parts. We're not, a melting pot. We're an incredible stew made up of so many different individual components, from carrots to when you eat a stew, It's not a consomme. We haven't blended it down. You still get to bite that potato. You still get to bite that carrot. You still get to bite that onion. But all those flavors come together to make that stew the most remarkable meal you've probably ever eaten. And it's because of the attitude of our veterans that recognizes everyone's individual contribution to making sure the mission gets accomplished that America is still sitting here today. And I know you know this. You have attributes inside of you that not only could the entertainment community use, but every community in this country can use to help us get beyond some of the divisiveness that we live through today. So I want to tell you, I hope that all of you learn through the sessions that you participated in today that, yes, in fact, America does want you. So reach out, try your best to see if you can, if you have to go back to school to learn more, to be able to share what you've learned and what you've actually honed during your military service, then go ahead, take advantage of that. Go back, learn as much as you can, understanding that the focus, determination, leadership, management skills, that worldly vision that you have, that calm under pressure, the ingenuity that you have is all going to be something that a company is going to actually need to get beyond where we are today. The entertainment community has so many different verticals. You don't have to think to yourself, I want to be in front of the camera. You can be about the business of entertainment. You can be about production. You can be about writing, directing, business affairs. There's so many transferable skills that you have that are in such dire need today that you alone can set yourself apart from so many others. Network. Don't be afraid to reach out to some of those that you've talked to today. Some people who've sat beside you in some of the sessions. Make sure you share a name. Make sure you say to them, if you need a hand up, not a handout, but you need some help, reach out to me because I will reach out to you to see if you could help me with maybe some of the questions that I have. And you'll find that the same camaraderie you found while wearing the uniform will be the same camaraderie you will get in pursuing your dreams. Don't let your goals just be a dream. Make sure you do everything you can to pursue them and accomplish them the same way you did while on active duty. There are so many military-friendly employees out there that are looking for people just like you. So step up to the plate. Don't be afraid. Take that step and step out smartly the way you did the entire time that you wore that uniform. Don't think that just because you've taken that uniform off, you have to stick it in a closet, lock the door behind it, and walk away. No, you don't. Make sure you keep that uniform under your clothes. And just like that magic S that's under Superman's clothes, keep your uniform there for yourself. And recognize that there are so many of us out there, other veterans that are out there that are willing to step up to the plate and help you achieve the goals that you've set for yourself. But as you do this, make sure you recognize that you need to kind of adjust from being in the military to civilian life. I mean, one of the things that was one of the most difficult things for me when I started the Montel Williams show was that I literally walked around the hallways of that show barking orders as if I was a lieutenant commander and calling everybody sir and ma'am rather than by their first name. These are some of the things that we have to start to remember that, civilian life, the civilian world doesn't necessarily understand some of the things that we say when we use our military speak. Instead of telling a person, well, meet me in my office at 1300, no, meet me in my office at 1 o'clock. Instead of telling people, sir, ma'am, call them by their first name. And remember to say please and thank you. You don't get to bark orders anymore. But it's okay. It's just a slight transition in who you are. Just remember, again, the civilian world doesn't understand what you have been through, though they acknowledge everything you've learned, gained, and all the attributes that you have that can help their business. We need to make sure that we meet them on the same page, and they'll be happy to meet you there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. One of the other things that we have to recognize is the fact that we're living through a very tough time right now. And that tough time requires leadership. It requires people who are focused on making sure we preserve the democracy that we have. And in an effort to do that, we've got to dig deep inside of ourselves and recognize that there's so much there that can be shared with so many others that can help this be a better place for us all to live. I'm reminded of a story that I want you to think about as much as you can and hold dear to your heart. It's an old story that's been attributed to a Cherokee Indian chief, and it's a legend that illustrates one of the most important battles of our lives. It's the battle of good and evil within us all. The story kind of goes like this. There's an old Cherokee chief who was sitting around a fire one evening, talking to all of the young Cherokee warriors that were there and all the young people in their tribe. And while he was talking to them, he said, "There's a fight going on inside of you, like it's going on inside of me. It's a terrible fight. It's between two wolves. One of them is evil, and one of them is good. The evil one, he's filled with anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, ego." And then he continued to say, "But there's another one. And that other one is the good wolf. And he's filled with joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith." And that battle is raging inside of us between the good one and the bad one. And one of the young troops, or one of the young warriors said, "But Chief, which one wins?" And the chief responded, "The one you feed. Make sure you feed the one that's going to help us all win. Because together, we'll take that same spirit that we had in the service, wearing that uniform, that pride that we had of accomplishment, and making sure that we took every hill. We'll share that with everyone around us and continue to make this one of the greatest countries on this planet." Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your conference. Learn as much as you can. Make sure you reach out to that guy sitting to the left of you, or that woman sitting to the right of you, or that friend sitting in front of you. Share a card. Make sure you share a way to reach out to them when you need help, and they can reach out to you when they need help. And have a great day. And thank you so much for letting me be a part.